So last week we did up to verse 19. And the important part was that there are 5 doers, which Krishna had explained. Right? The 5 doers. Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ tatha karta, karanam cha prathak vidha. So you're saying there are 5 doers. So not to consider ourselves as a doer alone. So we are also doers, but we're not the only doers. That was the important thing that Krishna was highlighting. But don't consider yourself to be the only doer of the process of whatever you're doing. And then Krishna is going to now talk about some more how different things. He'll talk more about modes of nature, how action, and then the all those things are in the modes. And let me first go ahead.
We had to start from text 19, Prabhu.
19? Okay. So before we go in there, I think we have seen this. I've shown you all this one. So 14th chapter, these are the modes of nature. Krishna is talking about things in different modes. Then we did in 17th chapter, where he was talking about food, sacrifice, austerity, charity. And now in 18, he's going to talk more about the 3 different modes. So renunciation, knowledge, action, performer of action, understanding, determination, and happiness. So this is going to be covered in this chapter. So we have covered renunciation earlier, and now soon we'll kick off the knowledge part in the 20th verse. Okay, there's the 19 is there to do. Okay. Yes, so according to the 3 different modes of material nature, there are 3 kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear of them from me. So yes, so here Krishna is mentioning 6 things in the verse earlier than that, 18th verse. There are knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower. And then he also mentions 3 more things. The senses, the work, and the doer are the 3 constituents of action. And now he kind of condenses them into 3 things. Not knowledge, action, and performer of action. Right? So those 6 elements that were talked about in 18th verse now have been condensed to 3 elements. And so Krishna is going to elaborate upon that. So 20th. So now we are talking about the 3 knowledge in the 3 different types. Knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities. Though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Right? So one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms. Yeah. So this verse and the next one is kind of, it's not necessarily complete spiritual knowledge. It's in a mode of goodness. It's more at an impersonal level, right? For example, Socrates. If you remember Socrates, when he was offered the hemlock poison, he said that you can kill this body, but you cannot kill me. So he had a knowledge of the soul, but his knowledge of soul was not necessarily scriptural knowledge. He was in a mode of goodness, right? So that's the way to understand this verse. Yes, so it's in a mode of goodness, but then, as we all know, that transcendence is even beyond goodness. So knowledge here is mostly how we perceive within this world, right? So we have our Gyanindriyas, we have our Karma Indriyas, right? That we use. So Gyanindriya they take information from the outside world, right? So that's what is being talked about here, the nature. So one in knowledge, however much diversity there may be in living beings, underlying the diversity there is a commonality, which is the imperishable nature, Atma. Right? So one spiritual nature permeates all living beings. So that's that. So it's in goodness, a person is able to go beyond matter, but he's not able to look at it from a spiritual perspective, right? We don't see it in the essence of spiritual love, as you would say. Yeah, we can see that there is variety, but we can see that beyond this material variety, there is a spiritual unity, but we cannot see that spiritual diversity from an essence of spiritual love. Right? But the transcendental platform is higher than goodness. Only on transcendental platform, we see absolute truth in the proper nature. Till that point, our vision is tainted. In later on this chapter, Krishna will confirm that as he is can be known only by bhakti. That he'll right. So Bhagavad Gita is very clear on this one point, that one has to go beyond goodness also. So we and then also we do accept that Krishna has impersonal feature, but that's not his highest supreme feature. Krishna is very clear what is highest, and he accepts that the highest truth has a partial revelation at the mode of goodness level, at the impersonal aspect, right? Which pervades all of existence beyond material diversity. So that's the way we understand this verse. And then similarly, the next verse also might sound a bit similar. Is that the knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there's a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in a mode of passion. Right? So here, Prabhupada will explain this in the purport that here the word living entity is being used for material body. When Prabhupada says this in the right here, the concept that the material body is the living entity, and that with the destruction of body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. So yes, so this is the next level. So yes, so the first one is, yes, the person in the mode of goodness, the person is seeing that there is a there is diversity in the material level, but then there is unity. There is some sort of commonality. There is an imperishable nature, Atma, or level of perception of the spirit is present. So the mode of goodness is that. But in a mode of passion, uh, the one starts ascribing one's identity with the body, with this outer body. Right? So that's the difference here. So that person here, the word, as I said, living entity is not used for soul. It's being used for material body. That's what Prabhupada explained us in the purport. Right? So, and then if you see the purport further, that according to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different type of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. So such people, they ascribe that the consciousness is because of the body itself. They don't believe in the concept of soul. For example, in Christian tradition, it's said that there are different type of souls: animals, vegetables, human beings. Yeah. So there's even some thought that animals don't even have a soul, so it's okay to kill them. But the Vedas say that soul is same, but covering is different. Right? So how do we differentiate between goodness and passion? So capacity to see the common core is goodness, whereas seeing separate bodies is passion. People think that if species look different, the core is also different. No, that's not what Bhagavad Gita's understanding is. Bhagavad Gita's understanding is only the species look different, The core is the same. Down deep, we all are souls. We are going through different bodies, some animals, some trees, something of that sort. So all that, but down deep. But here, in the mode of passion, the person is understanding that no, the species also look different, so they are different. Then comes the third aspect of knowledge, and that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness, right? So this is very interesting, right? So knowledge in a mode of darkness and ignorance. So knowledge and ignorance, you would think they are opposite words. But here, Krishna is bringing a paradox that, hey, knowledge and ignorance, right? So to consider one part of reality to be totality, oh, this is the reality, is ignorance. To consider one thing, everything, right? And to become attached to that one activity, thinking that this is all in all, right? So then it becomes, that's a mode of ignorance. And there's this word being used, ahetukam. Right? Ahetukam, Prabhupada translates this as without cause. Now, interestingly, you can use, so here the word ahetukam is being used in a negative context. Ahetukam is saying that, how do you say? Yeah. So it's ahetukam. So it refers to being causeless, not having any rational basis. But this same verse, ahitukam, it can also be used from a bhakti perspective. Ahituki bhakti. We all must have heard this ahituki bhakti. It comes in the first canto, second chapter, and it comes in the sixth verse. Savai pumsham paro dharma yato bhakti radhokshaje ahitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. So I'll show you that verse very good. So here, so you'll see this is 1.2.6. So here also the word ahituki comes, right? And ahituki here also is causeless. But in here, it has a very different meaning, very different context, right? So it's causeless. It's not motivated by anything. There is no desire with that devotional service. And it's uninterrupted. It doesn't stop because of any reason. So here the word ahituki being used here is in a positive sense, but that same ahituki is being used in a negative sense by Krishna to demonstrate ignorance of knowledge. So understanding that, right? So here Krishna is giving a very generic category, okay? And he's not saying, okay, getting attached to this one thing makes you ignorance. No, it could be anything, you know. He's not calling any specific things out, right? A knowledge in ignorance makes one attached to a fragment of reality as it is complete reality. For example, nowadays, some scientists, they believe that science alone can provide all knowledge and nothing else can provide us knowledge. Actually, there is a philosophy called Scientology. Scientology, I think that's how you pronounce it. Where that's the ideology that, you know, oh, science can tell us everything. Right? That's a concept out there. But unfortunately, so it's not that like science is wrong or spirituality is wrong. It's not like either science or spirituality. No, both can align together. But then if we take no, only science is correct and spirituality is wrong, then it becomes a problem. Uh, science and spirituality are not competitors. So I'm just giving you an example. I've taken science as an example. So some people start thinking that science is the all in all. So that knowledge is in a mode of ignorance. Sometimes even devotees think that, oh, I've come to science now. Sorry, I've come to bhakti now. So I have to give up science. Right? But that's not the true thing. Both these things give us information in different domains. Science offers us knowledge in the material domain, and the primary purpose of scriptures is to give us knowledge in the spiritual domain. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna didn't teach Arjun how to archery. He didn't teach him archery. He taught how to use his knowledge of archery. So that's a right. So uh, knowledge of purpose, values doesn't come from science. Science doesn't deal with these issues. Science doesn't deal with these issues. Science only understands. Science only focuses on understanding the world that we, uh, just looking at it world from that perspective, right? Science can ask how questions. Spirituality asks why questions. Newton asked, how did the apple fall down? But as a devotee can ask, oh, why does the apple exist? Okay, to serve Krishna. We take that apple, we cut it, and we offer it to Krishna. But Newton, when the apple fell down, he started thinking, why did the apple fall down? How did the apple fall down? So there's a difference in science and spirituality, but they're not supposed to be kept separate. They both can serve each other. Therefore, if somebody starts thinking, no, only only science is the right way, then it becomes a knowledge in ignorance. Right? And sometimes you will notice that Prabhupada also criticizes scientists in his books. But we also have to be very careful how we interpret what Prabhupada is saying, when he's saying. Many a times when Prabhupada is using a strong language, you'll notice that he is using it with very close disciples, mostly on morning walks, if you'll notice. Prabhupada rarely uses a strong language in his purports or even addressing people in general public. Right? So even actually Prabhupada would tell his disciples to organize scientific conferences, and he also would tell his disciples that you should be polite and respectful to the scientists, be courteous with them. So the conflict is not between science and religion, it's actually between atheism and theism. So when atheists in the garb of science misuse science, then it's wrong. Everybody start thinking that to become a scientist, you have to become atheist. No, that's not the case. Science and spirituality can go hand in hand and we could have a synergistic relationship. So that kind of knowledge, if just somebody thinks that, oh no, this is sciences can only give me answer, nothing else, that's in the mode of ignorance. So these are the three modes of knowledge. Okay. Clear on this part, the knowledge part? Okay, all clear?
Prabhuji, can we take it the verse where we talk about knowledge in the mode of passion, where we are talking about living entity as the material body? That I just wanted to understand. So if we read this translation right, that knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of material body. If we directly understand living entity is equal to material body, then it does not make sense, right, Prabhu? By
So
in different body there is a different type of soul, right? That is the passion, a person in the mode of passion things, right? But here it says living entity is equal to
yeah.
material body.
So let's look at the purport. Let's read the purport. That'll help us. The concept that the material body is the living entity, and that with the destruction of body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in mode of passion. So yes, there are two different kind of bodies being talked about, as you're rightly saying. One is this body, and then the living entity is also a body. However, as Prabhupada is explaining us, so in both the cases, there is a concept that there is no soul. There is just this material body. The other thing is consciousness, as Prabhupada is bringing out, right? Consciousness is so we know that our consciousness is coming from the soul, but some people might think that my consciousness is also an outcome of some chemicals mixing together. So that's where so you have the body and then you have a consciousness. We as devotees understand that body is separate, the consciousness is separate, consciousness is coming from the soul. But somebody might come and say that the material body and the consciousness is this. They both are the kind of the same thing, right? And when the material body dies, the consciousness also goes away. Or even if they're separate, but they both are coming from the same material origin. That's the way to understand it. And let's read further. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls, but there is an all-pervading soul which is full of knowledge. And this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there is no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion. So, as I was saying, body and consciousness, but both the origin and the source is material. That's what some people would think. And if you understand, if you look at it more broadly, impersonalists also look at it this way: that once this body ends, then everything merges into the supreme consciousness.
Yeah.
Prabhupada is also including those people in this kind of ignorance, in this kind of knowledge. Like there is no individual soul, but there's an all-pervading soul, which is full of knowledge, and this body is temporary. So impersonalists think when this body dies, then we merge in the totality.
Yeah.
We are not individual souls. So they are demeaning, or they are reducing the value of me as a soul. So that's a mode of passion. Did that make sense?
Definitely, Prabhuji. No, thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And for the mode of ignorance, for them, one part of reality is totality, right? That they are only stick to one part of the knowledge, and that they think has to be the complete knowledge, right?
Yes, that's correct. And you have to understand that if you look at these three verses together, so in the first one, Krishna is saying that, okay, you have an understanding that there is a soul, okay, and that there is, superficially we look different, but down deep we are the same. So that knowledge is in a mode of goodness. Second one, a person who completely rejects the concept of soul itself is in a mode of passion. And then in this case, there is no concept of soul at all. There is no concept of consciousness. There is just, I feel this is right, and I'll just follow this. So this is a more of a demoniac mentality, because if you remember from the 16th chapter, the demons were characterized as pravitticha nivrittija janana virdhasura, that they don't know what is right, what is wrong. They say, I know this is right, and I'll follow this. This is so that kind. So it's not necessarily a very specific definition Krishna is giving of knowledge. He's giving it from a perspective that how well you are developed intellectually. If a person is well developed intellectually, that person can see that even though superficially we are different, down deep we are the same. A person less developed in intellect will not be able to even make that difference. And then a person who's even below that intellect, or who's completely dumb and dull in his intellect, his or her intellect, that person will not even think about what others are telling him, or what others are thinking, or what other viewpoints are presented. He will say, I know the truth and I'll follow it. So that's the gradation of these three kinds of knowledge.
Got it. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, so that's the way Krishna is explaining this. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, even the mode of goodness is still in goodness. It's not transcendental goodness. It knows there is a soul, but then they don't understand the full mood of the soul. They're not looking at the soul as a part and parcel of Krishna. They're not looking at that soul as having a loving relationship with Krishna and having a swarupa in the spiritual world. They don't have that concept. That only comes at the level of transcendental goodness. So if Krishna would have explained us knowledge in four types of levels, transcendental goodness would have been one where would have fully understood what our relationship with Krishna is. I would have understood as a soul, but I also would have understood the purpose of me being a soul. But Krishna is not talking about that here. where were we? Oh, I moved on. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so this is the knowledge in 3 types. Right, so here Prabhupada is saying, sorry, yes, this was somebody saying something? No? Okay. Yes, so Prabhupada is saying here, for him, God is money and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It's the knowledge of an ordinary animal, and that knowledge is the mode of darkness. And now Prabhupada is giving somewhat of a summary here. Let's read this and let's see what Prabhupada says here and how does it fit. Knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane knowledge and mental speculation is a product of mode of passion. And knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Yeah. So Prabhupada has given a summary of the 3 different types of knowledge here. Okay, and now we will see 3 different types of action. Action? Yes. Action. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results is said to be in the mode of goodness. Yeah, 23. This is 23. Let's see what Prabhupada is saying. Regulated occupational duties as prescribed in the scriptures in terms of the different orders and divisions of society, performed without attachment of proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without self-satisfaction or self-gratification, are called actions in the mode of goodness. This is just one single sentence. If you notice, this is one long sentence Prabhupada has written for it. A nice way of putting it. Yes. So, karma, sattvic karma is being talked about here. So there's a consistent theme that Krishna has been bringing out in Bhagavad Gita, that as long as we are attached to the results, to that extent, we cannot think of a transcendental reality beyond the realm of action and its fruits. Right? Material fruits, what will they do? They'll bind us to material results. But what is being talked about here is without attachment. So that's being brought out here, and Prabhupada is highlighting about it further. Without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred. So Prabhupada is connecting both of them, attachment and love or hatred. How can we come to a level of love or hatred? Is when we don't have an attachment to the result. So when the result comes, I would neither love it nor hate it. That is why when we read the 2nd chapter, there was this verse, right? Raga dvesha vimuktestu vishaya sindriyancharan Atma Vashir Vidhyatma Prasadam Adi Gacchati. And the phrase that Prabhupada used in this, regulative principles of freedom. This is regulative principles of freedom. And that's why Prabhupada is using here regulated, the word regulated. So when we keep ourselves regulated, then freedom comes, the actual freedom comes. And then we can get mercy of Krishna. So the problem is not with material progression. The problem is with thinking that progress means only material progress, and there is no other kind of progress. So simply material progress, if we just think that material progress is all in all, that actually that makes us miserable actually. There'll be a lot of comforts externally, but internally there'll always be anxiety, there'll be insecurity, there'll be inferiority. So inferiority is especially comes because materialism imposes on us some specific standards of success. Only if you achieve this, then you are successful. Whereas bhakti, on the contrary, spiritual aspect, says that wherever you are successful because you are mine. Mamaivaamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanata. Krishna is saying, because you are mine, you are Mamaivaamsho, you are my Amsha. So if somebody comes and tells me that I am an Amsha of Krishna, who is the strongest person in the whole creation, who is unlimitedly loving, why would I have an inferiority complex? Why would I want to judge myself with others? Right? So if you think that only material progress is the only sort of progress, then the problem comes. So we can come to that level of detachment by those regulated principles of freedom, and we can get Krishna's mercy, and we can come out of this concept of, we can come to the level of goodness. Right? When we come to goodness, then things are revealed to us, as Prabhupada told us in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction. First, you have to come to the mode of goodness, and then things become clear for us. Right? So there is a verse actually also in the 11th canto. It comes. Let me see if I can find where we are told that we should not love or hate. Right? And let's see if I can find that verse. The 11th canto. Yes. Okay. This is a good one. Let me just show you this. 11. So if you see, there is a series of verses. Actually, there are 3 of them. Yes. So Krishna is telling, this is a discussion between Krishna and Uddhava, and Krishna is saying, "My dear Uddhava, because I desire that human beings may achieve perfection, I have presented 3 paths of advancement: the path of knowledge, the path of work, and the path of devotion. Besides these, there is absolutely no other means of elevation. So the first part is Jnana Yoga. It is recommended for those who are disgusted with material life and are thus detached from ordinary fruitive activities. Those who are not disgusted with material life, having many desires yet to fulfill, should seek perfection through the path of Karma Yoga. But devotees, if somehow or other by good fortune one develops faith in hearing and chanting my glories, such a person, being neither disgusted with nor very much attached to material life, should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotion to me." So devotees, they are not extremely attached to material life, and they're not even like, oh no, I hate material life or anything. No, we live a balanced life. Devotees live a balanced life. And we have read across Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has clearly told us that all these paths, they eventually, if bhakti is the end, then only these paths are valuable. So bhakti being the topmost, this is a principle that Krishna is giving us in the Bhagavatam. This is, if somebody wants to keep record, it's 11th canto, chapter 20, verse number 8. That we are neither disgusted with this material life, nor we are overly attached to this material life. So that is a state of a devotee, without attachment, and no hate, no love. Okay. So this is action in the mode of goodness. Then action in the mode of passion. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. So 2 things: seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego. That's the concept of mode of passion. Action in the mode of passion. Right? Going back to the concept of doer. So here also the word is being used. Saha ahankarena, with ego, that, oh, I'm doing it, I'm the doer. So thinking that I'm the doer. So it's saha ahankar. And then when somebody is working in a mode of passion, there's a very good chance he can slide into the mode of ignorance. Right? So, and then there is kriyate bahulayasam. Kriyate bahulayasam means labor. There is a lot of labor. There's great effort and to satisfy ourselves. Right? When the ocean was being churned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the churning of the ocean, demons were very angry because they got to hold the tail of Vasuki. If you all remember that story, they were supposed to churn the ocean, and Vasuki was kind of serving as the rope, and they were holding the tail. So they got very angry. They went to Vishnu. Says, "Why are we holding the tail? We are not inferior than the demigods." So Vishnu said, "Okay, fine, you go hold the head." So when the churning starts, there was so much fire coming out of Vasuki's mouth that the demons were burnt. So demons work hard without profit to themselves, even without gaining anything. Right? Sometimes passion makes one feel dragged to do more and more, even though there is no gain in there. As Prahlad Maharaj tells us in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, he says, Matirna Krishne Parato Svatova Mitho Abhipadyeta Graha Vrtanam Adanta Gobhir Vishitam Tamishram Punha Punas Charvita Charvananam. We are chewing the chewed. So, lot of passion, lot of hard work, lot of desire to gratify our senses, lot of false ego is in a mode of passion. So, having talked about, so this word, so we have been reading the word false ego across Bhagavad Gita. It has come many a times. What is a definition of false ego? Can somebody give me a definition of false ego? What do you think false ego is? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thinking of one as the doer.
Okay, yes. No, that's a good one. Yes. Yes, I'm thinking I'm the doer. Yeah. What else could be another definition for false ego? Or even let's wait a minute. Let's talk about ego. What is ego? Let's say what is ego? False ego, because if there is false ego, there has to be true ego also. Right? Otherwise the meaning of the phrase false ego, there's no meaning to it. So false ego and true ego. Let's just discuss what is ego. If somebody asks us, what is ego according to Bhagavad Gita?
Ego,
Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
ego comes in when we try to believe in the concept that we are this body and we do everything for this body to satisfy our senses. So that is the time this pride and ego comes in, when we totally forget the concept that we are not this body, we are soul. When we work at a very superficial level, satisfying my body, my pride. And the pride comes when we are governed by the sense object to satisfy our senses. So everything involves our satisfying our senses, because we completely think we are this body.
Then what is false ego?
This is the false ego, Prabhu.
So I'm asking, what is ego? Just ego. No false, because as I said, if there is a false ego, there also has to be a true ego. Then only the phrase false ego will make sense. But I'm talking about what is ego by itself. How would I define my ego? What would I say is ego? I know ego has a negative meaning to it, but keep that aside and think, what is ego? If you could just think of that concept. What you defined is perfectly, that's false ego. That's a misconception. But then for something to be misconceived, the right conception also should exist. So what would you say ego is? That's what I'm asking. And you could even think it from this perspective. When we go back to spiritual world, do we still have ego? Does our ego go with us? Think of it from that perspective also. But
Yes.
just it goes with us, okay?
Yes.
That means that there is true ego also, right? So now with that thought in mind, what do you think ego is? What do you all
Ego is,
think?
Prabhu, now when you say this way, what I understand, when we think that we are the masters, we always think that we orchestrate our activities. We are the doers, as Prabhuji mentioned, that we think we are the part and parcel of everything. We govern everything around us. But true ego is when we think, no, we are not the master, we are the servant, and our sole aim is to serve the Lord. When we understand with the servitators, we are nothing. We are the part and parcel of our Lord, and our only aim is to serve the Lord. When we come into that attitude, that's the true ego. And the false ego is when we think we are the doer, we are everything, everything revolves around us, and that only happens because we think we are this body. Our constitution is this body, and we have to keep pampering our body because we are governed by the false sense of ego to satisfy our senses.
Okay. So you use the word we many a times. So the ego by itself, remove the word true or false from it. Ego by itself is the concept of I am. That I-ness,
True.
the essence of I-ness is foundational for our existence, if you notice this. I was born in India, I was brought up in India, but I came to this country. Now I've changed my passport. I'm an American citizen, right? I dress in clothes that are probably made in, obviously made in some other country, but I bought them here. I drive a car that is probably not available in India. So in one sense, I have changed some part of my appearance or my existence, but my I-ness is still same. I'm still the same person. So the foundation of our existence is the concept of I-ness. And you rightly said, Maji, that ego is used sometimes in a negative way. It represents pride. You use the word pride also. But in a philosophical sense, ego is I-ness. Right? But when I am, but that I am, that phrase I am, is followed by something that is unreal. That means I identify with something that I'm not. That is false ego. For example, somebody can say, I'm an Indian, I am a housewife, I am a school-going kid or something, whatever. That is false ego. I am, and when I put things like that are related to this body or related to my superficial existence, they are false ego. These are conceptions of false ego. On the other hand, true ego is what? Aham Brahmasmi. Right? So, but then that is also not complete. We'll talk about it. Let's talk more about it. So in that level, that I am a soul. So that's a part of my true ego. But that's also not complete, as I'm saying. That's why the concept of Aham Brahmasmi is not complete. Right? We have to fully understand our complete identities comes from, how do you say it? When we include the other aspect. Yes, I am a soul, but as I was saying earlier, what is the role of me as a soul? What is my relationship? Aham Brahmasmi tells me I'm a soul, but it does not talk about my relationship as a soul. Both, and there's quoting the verse, Mamaivamshu Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. And then when Sanatana Goswami asks Mahaprabhu, who am I? And Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. So the true ego is understand that I am a servant of Krishna. So false ego. So ego, if you put ego in the center, I am. Depending on what you add after that phrase, I am, will define whether it's true ego or false ego. I am an Indian. I am a scientist. I am, probably whatever, a cook or whatever it may be. That's false ego. But when I say I am a soul, that's true ego, but that is also not complete. I am a soul who's a servant of Krishna is my completely true ego. Right? Not just the truth that I am a soul, but the truth that I am a soul in a loving service to Krishna. So ego by itself can never be given up. Never, we never give up ego. That is why when you look at the spiritual world, devotees have different kind of relationship with Krishna. There is Mother Yashoda, There is Subal, who's Krishna's friend. There is, there are some people who are serving as Krishna's servants, and there are gopis who are having a loving relationship. The ego is not going away. The ego is still there, but that's the true ego. Who am I? I am a servant of Krishna. I'm in a loving service to Krishna. I'm in a loving relationship to Krishna. That is why Prabhupada, when Prabhupada came to United States, in his mantra, we say, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Nirvishesh Shunyavadi. Shunyavadi are, Nirvishesh means they're impersonalists, Shunyavadi are voidists. There's nothing after this life. So, what they mean is, Nirvishesh and Shunyavadi, what do they say? This ego can be dissolved. Like a candlelight getting extinguished, this ego can also be completely gone. Or we know when a pot breaks, the air in the pot merges with the air around. Right? So that's the difference between false ego, true ego, and what is ego. So that's the way to understand it. Was that okay? Was that clear enough for everyone? I hope so.
Well,
yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Can you translate for me Samsiddhi Haritosana, or what is Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ?
Samsiddhim Haritoshanam. That phrase comes from the first canto, second chapter, right?
Okay, but what does that translate to?
Let's see, Prabhu. Let's look at it. Samsiddhim Haritoshanam. It's in first canto, second chapter. Which verse was that? Okay, this is the verse. Yes. So the word Samsiddhim Haritoshanam is coming from first canto, second chapter, verse number 13. And Samsiddhir is the highest perfection. Hari is Krishna. Toshanam is pleasing. So highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's occupation according to caste and division and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So Samsiddhim Haritoshanam means the highest perfection of this life is to serve Krishna, pleasing Krishna. So that's my true ego. That's
okay. Okay. So that might refer to this point.
Yes.
Because I'm always thinking I should be Samsiddhi Haritos, always pleasing somehow the Lord.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So that's your true ego, as we are talking about, bro.
Okay. And then what about Achyuta-dohaṁ? What's that?
Achyuta-dohaṁ. Do you know where it comes in, Prabhu? I don't know about that.
No, I mean I've known it for so long, but right now I'm just lazy. So I was asking you. Sorry. I mean I can look it up somewhere, but because I go to the back of Gita and look in different areas, but because you're too much of a scholar, so I figured I'd get lazy, be lazy about it,
No. So the word Achyuta means not fallen, right? Okay. Achyuta means fallen. Achyuta means one who's not fallen. So we are fallen conditioned souls, but Krishna is Achyuta. Right? Okay. So that's what Achyuta means. He's infallible.
Okay.
And Atmavan. How do I put the word Atmavan? Yeah, Prabhu, I'll have to look at it, Prabhu. I'm not. I understand the meaning of the word Achyuta, but Atmavan is.
So is there anything about that being applicable to what we're talking about? Why am I thinking like that? And if you can't figure it out now.
Okay. Yeah. No. Now that I think of it, so the word Atmavan. So when we say Dhanvan means somebody who's fully possessing money. Dhan means money. Dhanvan. So when we say Atmavan, the word Atmavan would mean that somebody would be full of the knowledge that he is a spirit soul.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So that is Atmavan. So now if I put both your words together, and please, this is what I'm thinking right now. Might not be perfect as Prabhupada has given us, but Achyuta Atmavan. So Achyuta means who can never fall down, and Atmavan is somebody who's who's in that pure consciousness that I am a spirit soul.
Okay.
So it's you can say that it's a state of a pure devotee.
Mm.
Like Prabhupada, right? Prabhupada could never fall down.
Mm.
I shouldn't say that. That's arrogant of me. But Prabhupada was, because he was a pure devotee, he became achyuta, infallible, because he was Atmavan, fully conscious that I am a spirit soul who's a servant of Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So achyuta Atmavan. So yes, both these phrases that you have brought up, they both connected to our true ego, Prabhu. Yeah, you're right. Now that I corrected both the words.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. You know, sometimes I known them and I used them, but all of a sudden I just couldn't grab hold of them.
Yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
lazy and asked you.
Yes. No,
Because
both.
I mean, this is so important. I mean, what you say, the ego. I mean, this is the whole gist behind
Yeah.
the conception of our existence. Which way do you want to go? I mean, if you have the false ego, okay, that's fine. Then that means what you do is in that position, because false is reference to the Lord.
Mm.
But really, I mean, if you only think at that level, then that's what Prabhupada calls mortal.
Mm.
Yeah. But then when you have self-realization, then you understand that ego is only situated in reference to the service to the Lord, and then that self-realization, and in that understanding, what is that? That's immortality, and that's part of the science of Krishna consciousness, that the eternality or immortality, and then that then one becomes happy. There's 2 or 3 things that are just stated by Narada Muni too when he describes this devotional service. But that ego, and like you taught us in the beginning, that's the nightmare of it all. That's why we came here.
That's why we came here.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that Krishna clears us for us in the 2nd chapter right away. You're not a body, you're a soul. If once we start living on that platform of understanding that I'm not this body, I'm a soul, everything changes around me. My intellect, it broadens suddenly. Then I'm not just looking at others as a resource for me to use. I understand that they are also a soul like me. This body is just a covering. So my understanding becomes deeper. That's why Krishna starts with the most fundamental knowledge, that you're not a body, you're a soul, in Bhagavad Gita. And then you can build up everything beyond that. But if that particular concept is gone, is not being established, that I'm not a body, I'm a soul, then the tree of bhakti never grows, because we have not yet fully imbibed the thought that I'm not this body. Even if it's theoretically, this concept has to be there in our understanding that I'm not this body, I'm a soul. Yeah.
Yeah, the science between spirit and matter.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, it's nice, real nice.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So yes, so now we've understood what is ego, what is false ego, and what is true ego. So these 3. So yeah, because we use this word false ego very often. We use it so often in our devotee discussions, but it's important that we understand that ego by itself never goes away. But depending on which way I take my ego, it can become false or true ego. And somebody might even ask us, how do I know if this is false ego? It's very easy. It's not hard. Whenever we are doing service, we should ask ourselves, am I doing this service to get respect, or I'm doing service for service sake? That will tell me whether I'm in false ego or true ego. As simple as that. And also, obviously, we have mentors around us. We can ask our mentors, hey, I'm doing this service. This is the thought in mind. Am I in false ego? So very easy to understand whether I'm in false ego or true ego. It's not hard. Okay. So now moving on to, so we have understood the concept of false ego. Okay. So verse number 25. That action performed in illusion in disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So yeah, work. So work in mode of ignorance being described here, and that work causes bondage, future bondage. The Krishna is bringing out the word bondage. It binds us. Right? There is a few good words here. Shayam is destruction. No. Sometimes we get very angry and we can destroy things, break a table or throw things here and there. So that's referred to things, Shayam. Himsa. So Shayam, destruction, is more of in what we do to inanimate things, which not living. Like I said, a table, okay? Or I have a pen in my hand, I throw my pen away, and it breaks. So that's Kshayam. Hinsa is when we do it to another living entity. Right? So obviously it's violence in both the cases, but it's depending on whom I'm doing it to. It can be either Shaya or Himsa. Okay. Then there is this word, anapeksha. This is another word. Krishna is using this in the 12th chapter. Krishna brings this out in the 18-19 verse. Anapeksha shuchir daksha udasina gatagata sarvaramba parityagi yomad bhakta same priya. So there also the word anapeksha was used. But there the word anapeksha was used in a good sense. It was referring to devotees who has no expectation. But here the same word anapeksha is being used for somebody who's not considering the consequences. So, so one is so reckless that one doesn't care for results of the action. So that's the word here. So today we have had two verses that Krishna has used in completely opposite purpose also. Anapeksha and ahituki. We use for these two words, right? And then there is paurusham. So the word paurusham is self-sanction, that is harshness, right? So where's that? Violence. Okay, yes. So paurusham. And so Prabhupada is translating it as self-sanction. Means one imagines that one can do it because one thinks he is very clever. So it's self-sanctioned. So he's saying that, oh, I can do it. Oh, I know. It's my life. I can do it. My life, my body, my life, all that nonsense stuff that goes on. So somebody thinks he's so clever that they can. So that's Paurusham here. And we read the word Paurusham also comes in the 16th chapter, Divine and Demonic. Paurusham evacha ahankara ityante. I forgot. Paurusham. So that comes in there. So it defines a demoniac mentality. So when one hurts others and that person delights, this is tamasic in nature. Right? So you can be, we can make fun of somebody, let's say. Okay, it's okay. But when I relish that, when I enjoy making fun of others, or when I enjoy hurting others, it becomes ignorant. And another important thing is, when you don't understand that there is distress being caused to others, we don't understand that. And interesting thing here is that distress, when I'm causing to others, I might be doing it knowingly or unknowingly also. Prabhupada gives us that story of that how sometimes benevolence can also be in a mode of ignorance. Right? There was kid whose brother was sick, and he gave that brother something to eat. I think a cake or something, right? And then the brother became more sick, right? So there is a way in which people, due to lack of knowledge, they think that they're doing good, right? So that's the thing. So they're causing distress action. So Prabhupada is saying it's called irresponsible work. It's destructive because it destroys the regulative principles of scriptural injunction. So it's irresponsible without understanding, without having full understanding of it. And on the contrary to it completely, we read in the 6th chapter, Atmopena Sarvatra, Samam Pashyati Su Arjuna, Sukham Yavadiva Dukham, Sukham, I forgot the last. But then Atmopena Sarvatra, that yogi knows, that a person who's a yogi, he knows how others are suffering. Right? So that's a completely different aspect. A person who's completely oblivious of other people's suffering, and he's not even realizing that he's giving distress to others. And on the other hand, there is a pure devotee, a yogi, who feels the pain of others. So he has this very clear understanding that how people are suffering. So you see that contrast in here, right? So as grastas, we all are supposed to be soft-hearted, because the grastas, in one sense, the grastas maintain the society, if you understand. Because brahmacharis don't earn, sannyasis don't earn. The vanprastha, they are done with their earning. So it's technically the grastas. So grastas cannot be hard-hearted. So for that reason, we have to develop that acumen, that intelligence, through which we could see what is right, what is wrong, and what is giving distress to others, what is not. Right. And so that's a completely opposite part of it.
Haribol?
Haribol, Prabhu.
Yes, this is, I'm driving down the road, so I listened to this part of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And so Krishna will say this, but I hear parts of passion that sound like the mode of ignorance to me, and then I say, oh yeah, that's ignorant. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Or did I lose you, Prabhu?
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm thinking, you have to correct me on what I'm supposed to be, what my perspective is, but because I'm thinking when I hear some things of this passion, it sounds like it's in the mode of ignorance. I mean, it doesn't sound like it should be acceptable. Is passion? I mean, is passion acceptable? I mean, it doesn't seem so nice. Some of it. As now, when you get here to this is out and out self-centered ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
But that passion, there's some things that I get tricked. I'm driving down the road. Oh yeah, there it is again. He's talking ignorance, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then Prabhupada says, or Krishna says, and that is in the mode of passion. I said, oh man, do you understand what I'm saying there?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I get tricked, and I was thinking, well, some of these things are a fine line because they're not very nice, or they're not very deeply rooted in Krishna consciousness. Is that true?
So you're saying that these modes are not in Krishna consciousness?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you hear passion, okay, some of the things in passion seems like really worse than passion to me. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I understand. I get your point now. So you're saying that there seems to be some overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a mess. I mean, it seems like a mess, and I say, oh yeah, and I label it right away, and I'm wrong. And so I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe. I mean, so I just sometimes So I was going to say to you, I was going to tell him, I'm going to ask him what he thinks, because when I hear that trips me right out. So maybe it's best to see what is goodness and steer away from everything else. Because
Sorry, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, because the analysis of the Supreme Personality, he's got some compassion, maybe. It's like putting you right down with his thumb and saying, no, you're totally out there, Yeah.
Well, when I get your point, Prabhu. It's not that clear. Whenever I think of the three modes, right? So the mode of goodness, obviously Krishna has talked about so many different ways, right? I just was showing those slides. Where did I do? You can think of all these things in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. what is the symptoms, what food we eat, what sacrifices we make, and what actions we are doing. So it's a big category to understand what is mode of passion. But if you would want to simplify it, when in a mode of goodness, the person is in a very pensive mood. He's thoughtful. He's not reacting to everything that is coming to us. Whereas activity is in a mode of passion. Like, oh, I want to do this, doing it. There is very little thought given to the long-term consequence or the outcome in passion. In ignorance, there is inactivity. So I know this does not fully cover the three modes. There might be a lot of parts to it and branches to it. But if you want to understand, that's the way, right? A person in the mode of goodness thinks before acting. He knows there can be long-term consequences. His intelligence is directing the person. This is to be done, this is not to be done. For a person who's in a mode of passion, he's on a mental plane. His mind is telling him that, hey, we're going to do this, all that activity. For an ignorance person, none of those two things are acting. He's inactive. It's like, I don't care, just I'll lie on the couch the whole day and just eat chips, or I'll do what I think is right. So that's ignorance. So I generally, when I think of these three modes, I look at it from that perspective. Right? And also, I think we talked about it in probably was that in the beginning of the 14th chapter. The three modes are differentiated based on how I perceive the external world. Right? So the modes shape our perception and response towards the world. And so how am I looking at things and how am I responding to those things? A person in a mode of goodness, he will look at it in a positive way. He'll look at it as he'll not look at it as a resource, first of all, and he will respond it in a positive way in a mode of goodness. In a mode of passion, there will be more of enjoyment tendency will be there, and whereas in a mode of ignorance, there is inactivity. So probably I'm just going further into details there, but yeah, so that's the way I understand it. Sorry, I'll stop there.
Yeah. Well, but see, I like what you see here is some of the tricky ones to me too, though. It's like greedy, envious, impure. That seems like, ooh, I thought that was downright ignorant. but like you said, though, the consciousness level, if you take it to the next level, that's passion compared to the next level of action, because the next level of action is really worse, lazy, always morose, and all that. Well, then then there's a line, but I get tricked sometimes because when I'm hearing it before I know really what it is, I don't think. So I say, oh yeah, that's ignorant. And then it's these are in the mode of passion. And I get caught. But what is making me do is be more aware, because when you get past the mode of goodness, there isn't that much thought. And then you get to a point where there's hardly reckless thought or no thought at all. But the passion is you're working, but there are some thoughts, but it's less centered around the higher level. Yeah, but I get tricked, so that's why I just wanted to share that with you, because when I see some of those, oh yeah, I got it. That's ignorant, and then say these are considered in the mode of passion. So it just I had to learn more about that. But at the same time, I think I'm safer if I just try to memorize that in the mode of goodness and keep going in that direction.
Yes, but, that's a good thing. Yes.
But I mean, this is so amazing how things get, because I think feelings and actions sometimes can overlap in certain ways. Like even, I'm so aware about how I can cause anxiety to someone. I'm aware of that. You know, like if you say something ignorant and bum me out, I have enough intelligence to retaliate and make you more agitated than what you just did to me. So and I realize that that's not it. I mean, because just because someone agitates you, you don't retaliate to get. You shouldn't agitate anyone on their path. The showing that their agitation towards you is just a lack of their action in the modes.
Yeah.
But I that's one of my biggest faults, is that I'm so sharp that I just. You want me to? I'll rattle your cage, so you be bumming out for a day or two. But I had to stop that, because that's not it either. God bless him. If he dogs me out, I should say, God bless him. Not. This world, we have so many ways that we want to react and retaliate, but that just buries us more from the real actions that we're supposed to do. And so the bottom line is, with me, the reason I talk like this too is because I say that prayer every day, the third Shashashrika, Trinitapi Sunicena. Come on. If you don't have that, one who is in this mind, if you are in this mind, the one who's in this mindset, with this mind, then you can chant the holy name. When one achieves this mind. So I'm seeing that, if I want the nectar of my existence, I have to figure out how to, like Vaisheshika says, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. And he's got that from his mom. And so, that's important. That simple statement. How many times do I transgress that simple law? But the more, and once again, like you said, the more mindful. If you're in the mode of goodness, you'll be mindful before you open your mouth. You'll be mindful of that friction which is being created before you even speak.
Yeah, that's true.
It's an evolution, and it's a training, and there has to be a desire. Well, what is the desire? Well, I want to chant the holy name nicely so I can make Krishna happy. And if you don't chant the holy name nicely, then if you're not pure, how can you serve the pure?
Yeah, that's true.
But I just like, you brought it right. You have it pointed right there, those passions and all that. And those are they trick me when I'm driving down the road. So I just wanted to share that with you.
And it's not just you, Prabhu. Krishna himself says this in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter. He says that karmano apihi bodhavyam, bodhavyam cha vikarmanam, akarmanascha bodhavyam, gahano karmano gati. That don't try to understand the intricacies of action. They're very hard to understand. Krishna says that. And then the 15th chapter, again, he says, right, that ashanga shastrena dridhena, that narupa maseha tato pallabit, that you don't know what is the right and wrong. It's very hard to conceive it. We should not try to understand, well, not that you're doing it, but we should not try to understand these modes of nature and not get into those details. Then it becomes a complicated thing. Whenever I try to solve my problems piecemeal, individually, thinking that I can figure it out, oh, let me understand this, I'll figure it out, I'll correct it, then I get more and more entangled in it. But when I take a step back and I say, whatever is coming to me, let that be all the problems, whatever I'm getting from my body, mind, and words, and in other people, Krishna, I leave all to you. Then suddenly we have come to a point of determination where, as Krishna wants us to do, ashanga shastrena didhena chitva. That's the 15th chapter. That we have, by determination, cut the bonds of these modes of nature without even understanding them. So that's the beauty of bhakti. It gives us complete, it's wholesome, it's a full package. I don't have to understand anything. Just take up bhakti and I'm perfect. But I totally agree with you. It's very, very hard to understand what is what and what is what. Thank you, Prabhu.
Another point is like something you told me also, and this is what I try to do too, is realize that don't oh, I just forgot because you just told me. You've told me many times. Don't worry about it. Oh, it'll come back to me before we go. I
Okay.
forgot that thought, but it was really exactly what you said too. Because you don't want to just so much. Oh no, here it is. The thing about this is okay. So, but this knowledge is coming out. Krishna's speaking this knowledge. Okay, so
Mhm.
he's giving us that knowledge to give us a perspective and an understanding. Because if you can just see, and even if you can't analyze it or don't get caught up so much in the complexity of it as much as you're aware with this knowledge, so that when it comes time to surrender, you say, I'm in a hurry to surrender because of all that other nonsense that Krishna has pointed out, because it tricks me. So
Tricks
don't
me.
worry about it tricking you as much as having knowledge to
Yeah.
be aware of it and be in the other perspective of in a hurry and happy and not upsetting. Oh, I'll give up everything and just surrender it unto me. Why? Well, because that knowledge, the modes are a nightmare. So many
Yeah.
things are a nightmare, but as Krishna points them out, that gives us fortification of the knowledge of desire to surrender. And that's what that you
Yeah.
imbibed in me, is because I keep asking, well, why is he talking about this? Because you got to get all the knowledge, all the window that Krishna wants you to have, so that you're more in a hurry and fortified and equipped to properly surrender with intensity.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the point. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay, so we talked about action performed in illusion. And then this is performed duty. So this is a performer of duty. This is the third thing that Krishna is going to kick off. So we talked about what is knowledge, what is action, and now the third part is Krishna is showing up is the performer of duties, one who performs his duties without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. So we have talked about false ego. Okay, there's no false ego. Okay, without association with modes of material nature, and determination and enthusiasm. This is an important part. Now Krishna is also bringing here. We read about determination and enthusiasm in the third verse of Nectar of Instruction. Utsaha nishcha dhairya tattat karma pravartana sangatyage shato vritti sadbir bhakti prasidhyati. That 6 things needed to improve our bhakti. Out of that, utsaha and nishcha is enthusiasm and determination. Very important for us. Utsaha and nishcha. Right? So enthusiasm and determination, they are helpful for us in making a long-term success. And interestingly, as I mentioned, that's right on top of Rupa Goswami's list of activities that enhance our devotional service. The word enthusiasm by itself is coming, it's a Greek word. It comes from a Greek word, which means entheos. Entheos means God, en means inside. Okay. So inspired by God. So theos. So in means inside, theos means God. So it's coming from within. From Krishna sitting with my heart is giving me enthusiasm. And we hear that in the Bhagavad Gita in 10.11, Krishna says that Tesham evanu kampartham aham agyan jantamah nashami atma bhavasto gyan dipe nabhasvata. That I give, by the mercy of my knowledge, by my mercy, the ignorance is destroyed in the heart of people who show me determination and enthusiasm and sincerity in my practice. Right? So as human beings, we can choose to be enthusiastic. Right? And when we are enthusiastic, Krishna reciprocates. Right? Krishna reciprocates before us. So when we, as we were just talking, right, when we contemplate before taking an action, that's in a mode of goodness. So when an action is done with enthusiasm and determination and without wavering in success or failure. When I have thought through that, I'm not going to connect myself to the outcome. And I'll be determined and I'll be full of enthusiasm. Then it becomes in a mode of goodness. And Prabhupada talks. There was this verse where Prabhupada talks of enthusiasm. It's 624 actually. Prabhupada says a good thing about. I want to read that to you. I'll show you quickly. So 624, and Prabhupada is saying, he talks about the story of the sparrow. We've heard that story, right? And we'll read that. As for determination, I'm going to read this paragraph. This is 6th chapter, verse number 24. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in a small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate toward his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small bird, and he promised to help. Thus, Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself takes up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus, the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves. When we show determination, Krishna comes to help us. It's not like by my own determination I'll become pure. No, it's not that. But my determination attracts Krishna's mercy. Just like the tiny sparrow's determination attracted the mercy of Garuda. That is why determination and enthusiasm is valuable for us. Okay, then comes passion. The worker who is attached to work and the fruit of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. So the person is always greedy, envious. So if somebody gets the results what he's expecting, he becomes happy. If he doesn't get the results, the person becomes rejected. So, but then to be productive, as Krishna is saying in the mode of goodness, I have to learn to not focus on the results, rather to focus on the action in enthusiasm and determination. So, in a karmic sense, if you look at it from a karmic perspective, we automatically become responsible for those actions whose results we are attached to. If I'm attached to a result, then the action becomes a part of my karmic cycle. But if I'm not attached to the results, that doesn't become a part of my karmic cycle. The karmic consequence, I get connected to the karmic consequence. So we should not become not get attached to the results. Okay. So, and then there's this verse that Krishna is using, impure, right? So it's an interesting word. We need purification to approach the Lord. But then Krishna can also reach us even when impure, right? So we all have impurity. Krishna said this in the 3rd chapter, Dhumena varta vahinis, yatha darsho malena cha, yatha ulbena varta gahanu. Like we all are covered with some sort of ignorance, some sort of impurity. So we are living in this material world, a competitive world. So there will be some sort of competition, right? So as devotees of Krishna, we don't have to be unnecessarily involved in the competitive world. We don't have to embrace competition in access. we try to look for an environment that is most conducive for my spiritual growth. Obviously, we cannot reverse the social current. We are finite, we are limited. We need a balanced approach. Right? As we just read, neither too much disgust, neither too much attachment. 11th canto, we were reading that, right? So, so not being so impure doesn't mean that we will not get Krishna's mercy. And one thing I really liked in Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada right in the first sentence says, a person who is too much attached to a certain kind of work or to result because he has too much attachment for materialism or hearth or home, wife and children. So Prabhupada is using that word too much. He has used it twice in the two sentences. So as I was saying, a balanced approach. Don't become too much attached. Obviously, as I was saying, we are living in this world. We have to, do some things which might not be perfect. But if in our heart we have the right intention, then automatically, even when we are even in impure state, mercy can come to us. The purity of our intention makes that impure thing pure for us. Just like Shabri. Shabri was taking a bite of the fruit and then giving it to Lord Ram. So if as a devotee, I eat something before offering it to Krishna, it becomes impure, right? I cannot offer it to Krishna. But because her intentions were pure, her offering also became pure. So that's something to understand from a mode of passion perspective.
How to go?
20. I work.
A real quick thing is, I heard something about enthusiasm the other day, which I never looked at. And it's a real quick thing what Prabhupada was saying in the Narada Bhakti Sutra.
Mm-hmm.
He said the first, while one should not be enthusiastic to attain material achievements, one should be very enthusiastic to attain the perfectional stage of devotional service. This enthusiasm is called utsaha. A living entity cannot stop acting. So when he is forbidden to become enthusiastic, about material achievements, he should at once be encouraged to become enthusiastic about spiritual achievements. Enthusiasm is a symptom of the living entity and it cannot be stopped. It's just like a powerful engine. If you utilize it properly, it will give immense production. And then he ends up saying, therefore, enthusiasm should be purified. Instead of employing enthusiasm for attaining material goals, one should be enthusiastic about achieving the perfectional stage of devotional service. Indeed, enthusing his devotees in devotional service is the purpose for which Krishna descends to this material world. So there's there's some nice little points there. Like it's a heavy machine and you can never stop acting. So if you're going to be enthusiastic, do it right.
Which verse is this, Prabhu, in the Narada Bhakti Sutra? Which verse? Which number?
This is number 5.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So that's beautiful, though. That's really, it's a couple different points. I never heard how Prabhupada said like that. So I really appreciate it. And when you were saying that, I said, where is that? And I had that book close by, so I just wanted to read that to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yeah, I'll look that up. I'll read that verse. Okay, we are at 8:32.